Hey everyone, I'm back with another mini craft talk for this week. And this week I wanted to talk about something that has come up in a lot of your discussion posts, as well as just kind of your intro posts and talking about your own writing and your own interests. And that is genre. So genre, in case you don't know, is the term that in more kind of academic fiction writing we use for fantasy, sci-fi, horror, romance, all of those different sections of Barnes and Noble away from the main fiction section. And I just wanted to talk about this today because I love that many of you are interested in genre fiction, and I do not want to discourage you from writing genre fiction. I'm just here to help you do it as best as you can, because there are elements of the literary that you still want to consider in your genre fiction. And those of you who write more kind of straightforward, literary, character-driven fiction might want to bring some elements of genre into that as well. So let me just share my screen and I'll be right back with you in just a second. All right. So this little presentation is called Bringing the Magic In, and it's about incorporating genre into literary fiction, or if you want to think about it the other way, incorporating the literary qualities of literary fiction into genre. So I'm just going to start by talking a little bit about what we consider the elements of genre fiction. Really the things that we all love about it. Because I want to say here too that some of my favorite authors are genre writers. I love Stephen King. There's a reason why he's kind of our richest living author, right? I love Philip Pullman's The Golden Compass universe. I think there are just elements of the universal in both of those writers' works. Not even to mention people like Ursula K. Le Guin, Tolkien. That's some of humanity's greatest literature. So let's talk about why. Why do people love it? Why do we all love to read it? One of those things, one of the qualities that we really associate with genre is extensive world building. So Tolkien, he spent decades like making the world of Middle Earth before he even wrote a single kind of in-scene story moment for The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. So world building is really one of the qualities that we associate with genre fiction. Of course, we have fantastical elements versus realism. So you can tell something's genre because there's, beasts that we don't have on Earth. There's witches and wizards, there's dragons, there's um, elements of the kind of imaginary that don't show up in literary fiction. But when I get to my further on slides, I'm going to talk about how these elements should still kind of conform to the rules of fiction if you want your work to be as successful as it can be. Um, because even genre writing has rules to its worlds, right? That's what makes it fun to read. That's what makes Stranger Things so satisfying. Elle can't do, anything. She can't conquer any foe through her like psychic powers. There's limits to what she can do. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes a story a puzzle, is through the limitations that you set on the characters, the world, even in fantasy and sci-fi. And then another thing about genre fiction is priority. Priority is sometimes given to plot versus character or prose. I think that's usually kind of an unfair characterization that genre fiction doesn't care about character, as I'll talk about later on. But like the reality is that many people who are intense sci-fi readers, they don't necessarily do it always to read about the characters or to read gorgeous prose. Stephen King does have gorgeous prose at certain moments in his books, but there are other books where there's a lot more just kind of A to B writing to convey information, and that's okay too. But those are just to kind of set the stage. Those are what we consider the elements of genre fiction. Um, so I want to kind of give you some tips for how to use those elements and how to write genre fiction well. And really, these tips apply to any fiction. But first and foremost, I would say you want to exploit genre's appeal. Use that rich description that like Patrick Rothfuss uses, that Tolkien uses to really make you immersed in to Middle Earth. Create that and use that textured and complex world. So many of us love this kind of writing because it's like you get to explore a world that you're completely new to. It's exciting. So use those things that make it so exciting. And then finally, like use those archetypal symbols. So Star Wars. Yes, people love it because it's set in space and it's got cool spaceships and Ewoks and stuff. But really, why do people love it? It's because George Lucas created it with archetypes in mind. It's the hero's journey. It's the most iconic kind of structure that a story can have. And I would say that fantasy and sci-fi in some ways are the inheritors of our folk tales and myth. And we love those. It's like encoded into humanity's kind of DNA to be drawn to those kinds of stories. So use archetypal symbols in your work, whether you're a genre writer or just a literary writer. So we want to use what genre does well, and we also want to inject the literary. We want our genre to be of a high caliber. And how do we do that? Well, you make characters and their conflicts feel real. Even if you're creating a goblin, a werewolf, an angel, an alien, or a completely new species, um, the way into a reader's heart and the way to get a reader to stay with you is to just work on the causality and credibility of your stories. Make us believe that these elves really existed and pay attention to that. Don't take for granted that often with genre readers will suspend disbelief a little bit more than literary fiction. You should still do your due diligence to make us believe that your characters and their world are real. And then another thing to think about is you're still writing for a human audience. We have human emotions. We're drawn to human plights and struggles. So your reader should still feel each plot turn and they should feel that those turns make sense for your world and its rules. And there should be human motivation. Fiction is fiction because it allows a reader to kind of step into someone else's shoes and have an experience that they wouldn't ordinarily have, and to really feel that experience rather than have it summarized for them. So, use our humanity, pull at our humanity, just as literary authors do, because that, again, is the way to a reader's heart. And then just a couple more thoughts here. Plot should still arise out of the character that you've created. So yes, we love like the weirdness, the inventiveness, the originality of genre. We love that like Ursula K. Le Guin created this whole entire universe with its own kind of rules and um, power dynamics and characters struggling together. That she created whole new planets, but she still had a plot that arose out of the characters she created. So think about what your characters want. What do they fear? There's a reason that in Lord of the Rings, the hobbits are the ones that have to return the ring. It's so much more interesting to have Frodo and Sam, the ultimate homebodies, which might I add, they're incredibly human traits that they love to be comfortable and warm at home. They love the familiar. They love the companionship of each other. Those are our human qualities that Tolkien used to create this um, species that we can relate to and love for that. But it's so much more interesting that Sam and Frodo are the ones that have to return the ring than, say, like the adventurous like elves, because it's really a challenge for hobbits to leave the Shire, to leave the place that they've always known, and it makes it a more interesting story. So that's how you always want to think about your writing is like, what would make this the most interesting conundrum for a character to find themselves in, and use that, make that situation. And then finally, keep your standards high for quality in your prose, in your plotting, even with the fantastical. Like I was saying, even fantasy has rules, it has constraints. So use those constraints to to create a plot that is really intricate and airtight and fitted together perfectly. And then even character nuance. So think about Game of Thrones. Why do people love Game of Thrones? Yes, they love the dragons. They love being in that kind of medieval European world of invention. But they also mostly love it because the characters are so interesting. They love Cersei. They love Tyrion. They are characters with a lot of nuance and complexity. And that is really the strength of Game of Thrones, not the dragons, at least in my opinion. So those are some ideas just for how to kind of use genre to your benefit or use elements of literary in your genre writing. Please, as always, kind of reach out via email if you have thoughts about this because I'd love to know what you all think and how you all think this should function in fiction. So I'll leave you there and I look forward to getting more into the workshop stage of our semester. See you, everyone.